Okay, everyone, welcome back to the discussion of system and preparation process. What does that mean? The process of preparing the system discussion can vary depending on the size and complexity of service organization. Okay, formal processes, especially in the case of smaller organizations, they may have an informal process with a few employees drafting the description, which is then reviewed by senior management. So a small company with limited services might have one employee prepare the description based on their knowledge without much formal review. What is going to happen in such a situation? While for formal process, larger companies, organizations with complex systems may have a formal process involving multiple departments and key executive overseeing the description preparation. As an example, a large financial services company may have project managers overseeing the preparation process and involve various departments in reviewing the final description. So for informal processes, what is the approach? What approach would a service auditor or auditors carry out? So if the service organization uses an informal process, then the auditor might not need to perform extensive procedure on the product or process itself. They will just focus, their focus will be on ensuring that the description accurately present the system and also design and implement it, right? But in a case of a formal process, if the organization have a formal process, auditors should understand how the description is prepared and controlled to identify possible misstatement and assess the likelihood of errors. Say for a large organization, the auditors will review how different departments collaborate to prepare and review the description, ensuring accuracy as well as completeness, right? But let's talk of a situation where, system are being revised. The initial draft of the description often change as the service auditors procedure uncover new insight and further disclosure requirement. Say, for example, the first draft might not include specific detail about a service or sub-service organization, but through the audit, it might become clear that the sub-service organization play a crucial role in meeting service commitment. And in this case, then this will require additional disclosure. So you understand? Then reviewing the initial draft. So when reviewing the first draft, the auditor should compare it with their understanding of the system and expectation of necessary disclosure. What are some of the key expectations? If a sub-service organization is involved and is essential to meeting the service commitment, the auditor expects disclosures about the sub-service organization role. If the system and controls have not changed significantly, auditor will not expect new disclosure related to changes in record. As an example, if the service organization rely on third-party vendors for data processing, the auditor will expect the description to include information on those vendors' controls. Then, talking about management roles, service organization management must perform a risk assessment to understand the risks that could affect service commitment and system requirements, right? As an example, a company identifies the risks of data breaches and implement controls to mitigate that risk, such as encryption as well as access control. Then this process helps management determine whether or where risk lies and design controls to be able to reduce or mitigate those risks. Without a risk assessment, management cannot effectively assess whether controls are properly designed or even operating as intended. And so I said at the end of the day, our job has to do with just risk management. What of common? Service organization management uses monitoring activity to assess the ongoing effectiveness of control, for example, or controls. A company continuously monitors the performance of its security controls by reviewing system access logs and conducting periodic vulnerability assessment. But as an example, for internal audit, reviewing internal audit report that evaluate control, self-assessment, periodic assessing control through internal products or programs or checklists, and then combination of assessment technique using various tools like performance review, automated systems, checks, as well as audit, right? And of course, each time that is being done, then it also has to be documented. And that's why it says that Service organizations document their monitoring activities, making it easier for auditors to review and access the effectiveness of security controls. And when you are telling somebody that you led your organization towards annual audit, or even help your organization prepare towards SOC 2 certification, also for you all to achieve the SOC 2 certification type 2, then documentation is a big thing. As a matter of fact, documentation is a big thing as far as GRC is related, okay? Then, as an example, a service provider may document the result of regular control assessment, such as monthly reports or the effectiveness of its firewalls. Service auditor role. While the service auditor might review management, risk assessment, and monitoring activities, they must conduct their own risk assessment as part of the SOC 2 examination. Auditors' approach focus on control effectiveness. The auditor might choose to focus on understanding the process management used to evaluate control effectiveness rather than relying solely on the organization's internal assessment. For example, the auditor might review the internal audit result and assess whether the controls were sufficient or even effective during the examination. So they will definitely go through that. But what's the takeaway? Financial services company uses a combination of internal audit reviews, self-assessment, and regular security monitoring to evaluate whether a fraud detection system is effective. The service auditor then review this documentation and perform additional tests to assess control effectiveness during the examination period. Then in the next video, we will talk on the procedure to obtain an understanding of the service organization system. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.